Welcome, 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 everybody. Thank you for joining us for our February 8th, 2022 CFRI General Meeting. We are going to be getting started here momentarily, but we wanted to make sure we had everything ready to roll and also try and give everybody that's out there milling around a chance to make their way into the auditorium before we get started. How's everybody think of the temperature outside? Yay, nay? Yeah, okay, all right. That's why we're inside. I get it. Floridians as a whole, I don't think particularly like the cold temperature. I actually lived in Alaska for 5 years, so it doesn't bother me too badly. But I will say our family was up in Georgia over the weekend, and it was 37 and raining. And that's just, yeah, it's just not fun. It isn't. All right. Are we good on the camera, Peter? We're good back there? Excellent. Thank you. All right, good. Well, again, welcome everybody. Thank you for those of you that braved the cold and the wet and everything else and made it out here tonight. Again, we have a great panel of rather interesting folks for you to learn from this evening, as well as some other goodies that we'll hand out. And of course, all those things that go along with the fun deal of the month and the dud of the month and those type of things. We'll get to all of that momentarily. Again, we are so happy to have everybody here that is here. I know we've got several people still over in the vendor room. We'll talk about our vendors here in just a moment. And I know we still have a few people that are checking in as well. So wanted to kind of pause and again, give everybody a moment to get in there. All right, but let's go ahead and get started so we can stay on schedule. Again, welcome to CFRI's general meeting for February 8th, 2022. We are very happy to be able to have this both in person and so far still able to do the simulcast streaming via Zoom for people that are participating there as well. Not sure how long we will continue to do the Zoom simulcast as well, but for right now, we need to kind of do that and make sure that we try to accommodate as many people as we can. Obviously, the situation continues to change dynamically in terms of what the latest and greatest is in terms of what resources we can use and what the latest restrictions are. And well, you guys all know how that works. Anyway, let's see, I'm gonna turn it back on. There we go. All right, so you're gonna see some of the same old slides that you see every single time we get started with this. First of all, if you did not know this, CFRI is a nonprofit REIA. It is one of only a few nonprofit REIAs. A lot of the other REIAs around the country are for-profit REIAs, but we are one of the largest, if not the largest nonprofit REIA in the country. And we're actually a partner with National REIA. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. But one of the things that is important for everybody to understand is we are here to serve a purpose for you, and that is to provide you with as much good information about real estate investing as we can. And so we strive to do that through networking opportunities, through educational information, obviously our meetings like this, seminars that we hold. I'm going to talk about some of the classes that are currently going on. We have a series of classes on Real Estate 101, and all of that is what we try to do. Now, you'll also see where we talk about the community, the legislative, things like that. So we also, if you're not familiar with it, we have board members and other people that are keeping an eye on things that are going on with real estate. And a lot of that information is conveyed in the focus group meetings, the county meetings like this. And that is where you get a lot of that great information. And of course, we'll also talk about the social media aspect in just a moment as well. All right, a couple of things that we have to get out of the way in every meeting. And again, if you go to many meetings, you'll see this. Hopefully you'll see it at every single meeting because it's supposed to be gone over. And that is that while CFRI, and especially those of us that are up here on stage, are trying to provide the best information we can, if we are not a particularly qualified expert in a certain area, so I am not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, you're not going to take anything from me as accounting or legal advice or anything like that. And that's not what CFRI is for. CFRI is so that you can find those business members that can provide that type of expert advice and information and provide you with what you need to know about your real estate investing business. So very important that CFRI, we do not have any liability for anything that you might hear. You have to do your own due diligence. It's very important that you do that. You want to make sure that you get good, reputable advice from people that are experts in their field. How do you find them? Well, if you don't know already, two great ways are ask other people that are in CFRI, who do they use? Why do they use them? Have they had a good experience? And check out the CFRI website. You can go to CFRI.net. There's the business member directory, and it's organized by, of course, the different categories. So you can do that as well. Now, we said that one of the ways that you can find out and more information and learn more and do more is by using CFRI as a tool to increase your networking opportunities. And one of the ways that we provide additional chances for you to do that is what we call the meeting after the meeting. And the meeting after the meeting right now is being held, so after this meeting, is going to be held at Graffiti Junction. And I am told that that is the correct address. Maybe, I don't know if they updated the pictures or not, but somebody told me last time that we had a picture of an actual different one. So hopefully that has been updated. I honestly don't know. I can't tell one from the other, to be honest. But that is where we typically have the meeting after the meeting right now. A lot of you might be familiar. It used to be at Miller's Ale House. We had some bad luck with that particular location, I think back in January. No, sorry, it might have been the end of last year. And so now they are going to Graffiti Junction. So if you want to partake and get even more, that might be something you want to consider. All right, just something to keep in mind. I'll remind you about that again one more time. Now, one of the things that was very popular before COVID hit, and we are going to be bringing it back next month, so we want to kind of give everybody a little heads up. Be ready for this. A couple of people have been asking for it, and that is member announcements for CFRI members. Now, the reason I want to go ahead and put the slide in there is to emphasize a couple of things. Number one, you have to be a CFRI member to make these announcements. So it's not just a free-for-all opportunity for somebody to show up and make an announcement. They have to be a CFRI member. Secondly, if you're going to make an announcement, like especially if you say, I have the following for sale, then it is something that you have to have under contract. You can't just say, oh, I know about this property that I will sell you. It needs to actually be something that you have under contract. But we call it the haves and wants. And what we do is, as we get started for the meeting, we will typically have a pad of paper and something like this stand up to the side of the stage. And we will give a call for those announcements. And what that gives is your opportunity to then come down here and put your name on the pad of paper along with your phone number, maybe even email address. That way we've got that contact information in case anybody asks. And then when we get to the section, everybody gets a chance to come up here, and typically we give 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds at the most, but give you a chance to say, hey, my name is Jay and I'm looking for the following property, or I have this for sale. Here are some of the details. Here's my contact info. Let me know if you want to know more. We are bringing that back starting next month at the March 8th general meeting. So if you know or even have any idea that you have something for sale, something that you want, or you know somebody that might want to be announcing that, remind everybody, hey, we're going to be doing that starting again on March 8th. Now, if you are not aware, CFRI does participate in a variety of social media platforms as well. You can find us on several of the ones you see up here, whether it's YouTube or Facebook. Most of what everybody partakes in, at least as far as I've seen, is the Facebook members only group. Of course, for that, you have to be a CFRI member. But once you're a CFRI member, you can join that, and there is a lot of good information that is passed in that group. I was talking earlier about legislative. I know that one of our board members, you'll see up here a little bit later, Rob Arnold, is the head of our legislative chair. And anytime he learns about a new rule, a new law, something that could potentially affect all of us, that's where he posts that information so that everybody can see it. That's another great reason to be in that members only group. Now, as I said before, CFRI is a part of National REIA. So by being a part of National REIA, we actually get a lot of member discounts that we can pass on to all of our membership as well. And if you're not aware of that, we have quite a few. In fact, here's the slide. And I'm not even sure that that really covers all of them because they frequently do update them and change them and so on. But there are quite a few. If you see something up there that you did not know that we had, maybe you want to know more about it, obviously check out the website. If it's something that for whatever reason you don't see any more about it on the website, or you can't find any more at National REIA about it, don't hesitate to ask Buffy for more information. If it's not something she knows, she can contact National REIA as well. There are quite a few up there that are really, really good. A couple that we like to highlight. In fact, one of them in particular is the Home Depot program. And again, if you're not familiar with that, it's a great program. What you can do is, by being a member of CFRI, you can actually go to the Home Depot website. You establish an account with them. One important part is the email address that you use for your Home Depot account does need to match your CFRI email address, because they do audit those from time to time. But then once you've created that account in Home Depot's website, you can go through and register your cards. Those can be credit cards, debit cards, gift cards, whatever you're going to use to spend money at Home Depot. And then the Home Depot keeps track of those purchases, and you can get a rebate check, 2% rebate. I believe there's a minimum amount that you have to meet. I'm not sure what it is right now, but there are a lot of folks that are in our group that have gotten some very nice Home Depot rebate checks. So it's a good thing to have that. We also have bulk purchase discounts, paint discounts, things of that nature. One of the key things, though, is when you are registering your cards on the Home Depot website, they do have to have this REI code here. Whoops, I'll do that again. The REI code that you see right there. So that has to be on there for you to be able to for them to track the card and know that it goes with the program. Anyway, if you're not really sure and thinking, well, I'm not sure I have all those details down, check out the newsletter. CFRI newsletter is available every month on the website, and in the back part of the newsletter, we have pages that actually show you step by step what to do if you want to be a part of that program. A lot of things on the website. Of course, additional resources that I was just talking about. The business member directory is there as well. This is what February's newsletter looks like. So you can kind of see that there. All right. And a lot of good articles in there written by CFRI members, of course, business members, regular members, a lot of great information. And we typically will have that newsletter available on the website, usually by the first of the month. Every once in a while, something might create a little bit of a delay, but usually it'll be there by the first of the month. All right. If you are a CFRI member, actually for a couple of these meetings, you would not necessarily even have to be a member. You could pay and go to the meeting. But for maximum benefit, you want to be a CFRI member, and you can go to one or more of the many group meetings that we have. And we have county group meetings for all 6 of the counties that we are a part of. We also have focus group meetings for a lot of different subjects. If you go to the CFRI website, you can see down here it says check out the calendar. Very important to do that, because that's, first of all, it's going to tell you what's coming up, what the events are, what's the meeting. You can click on each one of those, find out where is it going to be held. You can get more information. But one of the key things that I want to emphasize is it is very important that if you're going to go to one of those meetings, to please pre-register. The reason for that is because, again, some of these locations, we have a hard limit on how many people we can have, and being able to keep track of that. Plus, if anything should change at the last minute, we need to let people know. Great way to do that is if you've pre-registered, we already know who we need to let know. All right. Right now, everything is in person with the exception of Osceola and Seminole County. We still have some issues there with those meetings, and especially the location when it comes to Osceola County. Now, I talked about training and classes and other types of things that CFRI provides. If you did not hear about it last month, if you somehow missed it, didn't see our panel, didn't hear about the classes that were going on, we have a series of 6 classes going on right now called REI 101, or the REI 101 Academy. And if you happen to have missed the first class that was last week, that's all right. You could still get in on this. It is still possible to join it and go to the other classes. All you need to do is visit the website, call the number, or hey, Buffy is right outside. All you have to do is ask her. So that is a great series of classes talking about a lot of different areas within real estate. And again, it's something that many of you would possibly find very, very helpful. And one of the things we didn't talk about a lot last time is you can also get PHP credits for attending. Now, the PHP certification, Professional Housing Provider, is a certification that you can get saying you've met a minimum criteria of training in the field of real estate. Now, you can find out more about it on, of course, our website, but that's you get a long way towards it with that series of classes. All right. Most of you are probably familiar with this at this point, but if you are around towards the very end of the meeting, especially after our panel has completed, we will be handing out some cool gifts. And some of you have seen us do this already, so you already have an idea. The Home Depot gift cards, every once in a while, we even have some other things to throw in, but you do in fact have to be here. Last month, we had a little bit of a surprise because 3 or 4 of the people that we called and said, hey, you just want a gift card, and they weren't here. So you do have to be here to win. Now, you're going to see some of these people up here on our panel tonight. This is our current board. This is the 2022 Board of Directors. Everybody is mentioned and listed up there for you to see. And again, obviously, you will see some of those folks up here tonight. Now, it is time to shift gears a little bit. You're done listening to me. I can tell because nobody has said a word the entire time. They're all looking at me like, is he going to shut up? Yes, I am going to. Just a minute. But it is time to talk about the deal and the dud of the month. And last month, our fearless VP was unfortunately under the weather, and we had a guest fill in, our VP from last year, Stephen, who did a fantastic job. But this month, our fearless VP is actually here and able to join us, and his name is Phil Georges. You're going to see him in just a moment, and he is going to be talking about the deal or the dud of the month. One of our favorite things because we get to see what other investors have done and find out more about it. And with that, let's see. Oh, nope, sorry, we're not going to get to that just yet. We're going to do something else first. I forgot about this. So we actually have 2 new lifetime members that we are going to induct here at CFRI. Now, if you're asking yourself, lifetime member, what does that mean? How do we do that? So a lifetime member is somebody that has not only been around CFRI for a while, because you can earn points for being a CFRI member, but you can only earn half of your points towards lifetime membership by doing that. The other half you earn by volunteering. And so the only way that you can become a lifetime member, meaning you're automatically granted a membership for your lifetime, is by actually being not just a participant, but also somebody that actually gets out there and helps and volunteers in various roles. Now, that could be volunteering at events. It could be volunteering by leading a group or assisting in leading a group. It could be volunteering by, hey, serving on the board. And with that, we are going to bring up our first lifetime member here, Mr. Greg Bond. Can I get a big round of applause for Greg Bond? Grab a mic, Greg. All right. Yep, it should be on, I think.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Are we on? Beautiful. So Greg Bond, as you guys will probably know from the picture up there a moment ago, is a board member. And Greg, what position are you on the board this year?
I am, once again, treasurer, Jay.
Treasurer. So keeps track of all the numbers, does a lot of mathematical equations quickly in his head.
I like numbers.
Exactly. And Greg likes to do deals. If you have not seen it already, he has done several deals, and he's even helped us out with a few duds. But what that proves, as I've told everybody over and over and over again, that means that he's actually doing a lot of deals because that's how you learn. So when did you first get started at CFRI?
About 2013, 14 timeframe.
2013, 14. Okay.
Yep.
All right. How did you find out about CFRI?
I'd known about CFRI for a long time, but my kids were in traveling soccer teams, and I was the coach and helping with the team. And So it didn't allow me a lot of time, and I was doing a lot of deals at that time. So I was so busy, I didn't take an opportunity to join CFRI. I wish I would have now, but I didn't. So
All those things that we say we wish we could have done, right?
exactly.
For sure. Who first made you aware of CFRI? How did you first become aware of it?
Boy, I can't even remember now.
Okay.
Can't remember, but I remember getting involved. I remember seeing the PHP and going, I want to get my PHP. So I attended class after class and then started helping with classes and then eventually came on the board. I first came on the board on 2016 as treasurer.
Okay.
And then 2017 as treasurer.
Right.
And I took a break in 18 and 19. And then Robin Daniels actually called me and said, hey, would you consider coming back? And I said, sure. And I came back in 20 and then 21. And then this year will probably be my last year on the board.
Oh, okay. So everybody heard that. There's going to be an open position for treasurer. We're going to need some people to fill in. All right. Good. Well, obviously, we appreciate all that service. I know you've helped out a lot of meetings. So in Christmas time, there might be a lot of people here that don't know this. All right. But at Christmas time, what other little volunteer role have you played?
Well, my wife got me a Santa suit, so I wear my Santa suit in and play Santa.
Greg, AKA Santa Claus Bond, right there. Yes, no, he does. He helps us out, especially when we can do, again, with COVID, we have not been able to do as much as we've done in years past, but maybe, fingers crossed this year, with December, we'll be able to have a little bit more of a party type environment and do some of those great things that we've done before. All right, fantastic. So over the years, being a part of CFRI and especially volunteering and whatnot, for our folks here, would you say that that has been a help, a big help? How would you describe it?
Huge help. I mean, you look at the opportunities that CFRI gives you to learn and the amount of things you can learn and the people you can learn from, and you kind of compare that to what you get from some of these guys coming in from out of town, right? And they're going to charge you $10,000 or $15,000 to come to their event and learn all this stuff. You're going to learn a lot of the same stuff plus more at CFRI. And so the value for the dollar is tremendous. And I think there's no comparison.
Could not agree more. Just for my benefit, and obviously for everybody here as well, and I don't even know the answer to this question, but have you ever been a group leader?
I have never been a group leader.
Okay. All right.
I've only been treasurer.
Yes.
5 times. And never been a group leader.
So, and part of the reason that, I mean, again, I did not know the answer to that. I was pretty sure I did. We also used to do this thing where if your phone rang, you had to pay $25 to us. So thank you for muting your phone. I love that look, like, phone, what phone? No, appreciate it. Like I said, I wasn't too sure, but I was fairly positive you had not been a group leader, but kind of to point out to the group that, again, there's a lot of different ways to volunteer. It's not, people sometimes get the idea, well, I want to volunteer, but I don't know if I want to be responsible for leading your group, or I don't know if I want to do this role. Again, look into it, find out. One of the reasons that we were able to do all of this is through volunteers, because the entire board is a volunteer. That we only have 2 paid employees, and that would be Buffy and Lindsay that you see out there. Everything else is done through volunteers, and that's what makes this work. Yeah,
I love to go to the classes. I'd actually show up early because I wanted interaction with the speaker, right? If you're there early and they're there, they're probably going to talk to you. So I wanted to learn as much as I could. And then while I was there, Buffy would say, hey, you're here early. Can you help set up chairs? Can you do this? Can you run there? And so I was always there early.
It's interesting how we have different motivations. I would think, all right, we're going to have a class. That means I get a Chick-fil-A sandwich. So it just depends, I suppose, right? No, in all seriousness, Greg's absolutely right. When you have the opportunity to show up early, especially at any event, class, meeting, whatever it is, that's going to give you more of an opportunity to talk to people and find out more about what's going on. Very important.
One of the best deals that I've probably done on a single family side was from Ron. Ron brought a deal in, helped me push that deal through, and it's turned out to be one of the better deals that I've done.
And
Thank you,
you guys will get to see Ron up here in a few minutes talking about one of the Deal and Dud presentations that we have, so you'll get to meet him and find out more. All right, fantastic. Well, Greg, if you don't mind, I'm
Yes,
going to
Jay.
ask you to stay up here for a moment.
Really?
And do
Why
a
would you
little
want
bit
me
of
to
a
do that,
presentation.
Jay?
So
The next contestant on
let's
the
see, I
lifetime
think we have
membership
one more.
is
Hey,
Jay
look at
Spann.
that. Thank you.
Big round of applause for Jay Spann, lifetime member.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Jay, tell us about your story. How did you start?
So let's see here.
Tables are
Believe it or
turned.
not, at a very similar time frame. My wife Paula, who you guys will see up here in a moment as well, she has a deal of the month. We got started around 2014, and much like you described, we had heard about these events you could go to, and without naming any Kiyosaki names that you might hear about, going to some of those events, and then you see the price tag associated with it, like, wow, look at that. I mean, that's an amazing amount of money. You must learn a ton. Well, you learn stuff, but like your point, you can, and we really, really wish that somebody had said before that, hey, there's a REI, you can go to REI. I will say, believe it or not, that's the first place that we heard that there was a REI was actually at a Kiyosaki event.
Wow.
Like, hey, go check out your local REI. It's very important. So we looked it up. Sure enough, there is one. Cool. Let's go check that out. And again, knowing what we know now, being able to go back and say, hey, let's start here first. Hands down the way to do it.
Yep.
Some of the classes that we have, like for example, Junkers to Jewels, which we've not been able to hold recently, but Greg and I have both been on it. And it's one of these where you get to do basically a whole weekend. You even do a bus tour, you go see properties. Things like that are invaluable. They're really, really invaluable. And we are hoping to do that again this year. So stay tuned for that.
So Jay, how'd you get involved? You got your PHP?
I did. I started working on PHP, and much like everybody else kind of found as you got closer and closer to that last little bit, you were missing like one credit in some oddball thing. And it's like, where am I going to get this? When are they going to hold that class? Come on, we need some more classes. And eventually did get that. But along the way, we, Paula and I would go to these meetings and try to show up early and find out what can we do to help? Who can we talk to? What can we learn? And you show up early enough times, there's going to be somebody that's not there, and probably somebody will say, hey, do you mind helping out with this? No problem. Well, I have a background for many, many years in IT. So one of the things that was not being done at a particular meeting was sound and video and whatnot. And I got asked to help and had a lot of fun doing it. I got to control this huge soundboard. It was like, whoa, this is cool. Nerd, sorry. But then that led to being asked the following year, hey, would you like to be director of operations? And then I did that for 2 years. And then somebody said, you have much more potential. You should really move up in the organization. Would you consider running for another position? So I did. I ran for vice president and I did that. And then lo and behold, ran for president and here I am. But I can only serve as president for 2 years. This is my second year. So
another opening.
There's going to be more openings on the board next year.
That's great.
Yeah.
So did you ever serve as a group leader, or it was just operations and then vice president and president?
Correct. Yes. I looked at some of the groups. I've definitely helped out at some of the groups, but never officially been a group assistant or group leader. Who knows? That might be in my future. We'll see. Maybe you and I will start our own group.
I think that sounds good.
Fantastic.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for your service.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. And we have awards up here. You're welcome to take it with you or get it a little bit later on.
I'll leave it up there
okay,
and grab it later.
Yep. Awesome.
Thanks, Jay.
Round of applause for Greg Bond. All right. And if you didn't hear earlier, at the end of the meeting today, we're going to be doing some giveaways. So make sure you're here because, again, you do have to be present to win. All right. Did I say before that if you have a deal or a dud of the month that you need to contact our vice president, Phil Georges, and let him know? It's not hard to do. We have so many people that say, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. It's not difficult. As you're going to see, it's a PowerPoint presentation where you fill in a couple of numbers, you fill in a couple of pictures. Very easy to do. Phil is going to guide you very easily through the questions and ask you about it. You get to tell everybody about the deal you did. And it doesn't have to be a good one. It can be a good one. It can be a bad one. Remember, we are here to learn. So it's very, very important that we have the opportunity to do that. And with that, I am going to ask Mr. Phil Georges to come up here. Round of applause for our Vice President, Mr. Phil Georges. Thank you, thank you. Come on up. Feel free to grab one of those mics, and when you get ready to advance the slides, it's the down button here. All right. So if you need to go back, it's the up button. With that, I will leave it to Mr. Phil George's. Certificates are here when you're ready. And here's Mike for Paula.
Hey, good evening, everyone. As he mentioned, we're going to do Deal and Dead in a month. And if you struggle with PowerPoint, I'll be glad to help you. I enjoy PowerPoint. Okay, so I helped Ron, who's there. We met, we sat at a coffee shop, and we got that thing together. Okay, so if you have a deal or a dud, we can go over it. Don't be embarrassed. People learn from this experience of being up here. And we do it for you so you can see some of the mistakes that we make or some of the successes that we have in some of the deals, so you know that you too can do it. Okay, so with that, I'm going to call up Paula Spann. Hey, Paula, how are you? Good to have you up here again. This is Paula's deal, so we're going to have her tell us a little bit about it. Paula, how did you find this deal?
So this deal came actually from my son. He worked with somebody who was saying, was walking around talking, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what we're going to do. We've got this house that he just kept telling him, you need to talk to my mom. You need to talk to my mom. He was embarrassed. He didn't want to get, I don't know. It was his wife's family's. And as you can tell, it had a little roo-roo on it, but it was from my son. My son finally got him to come and talk to me. And
see, now you guys always want to know where you find deals at. You know where you find deals at? You got to talk. Tell everyone you know what you do, because somewhere, somehow, somebody's going to call you out of the blue and say, hey, I got this real estate problem. Can you help? And I can't tell you how many deals I've gotten that people just called me. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So this is a 1-bedroom, 2-bath, small house. So tell us what your plans were with this.
so what that said, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, no.
1 bedroom, 2-bath. 1 bedroom, 2-bath.
Yeah, that's exactly what it said on the property appraiser's website. Exactly. And when I got there, it was a 2-1. So they had kind of moved things around and 2-1. And that's what the original thing. Can you go back to that one picture a minute?
The first slide?
Yep. So what happened is the people were living in this house, and somebody, granddad or somebody, had built onto it in several different ways. So they put another bathroom. You can see it hanging up, coming out of the ground, and 2 more bedrooms back there. And then on the side here, they had built another screen room type thing, all of it unpermitted. And then Hurricane Irma came along and taught them what happens when you get things unpermitted. So it was a much bigger house for them, but on that night, all of the trees fell.
The trees fell?
Yes, that
Does
one.
that happen in Florida? Trees falling?
That one that's hanging right there, that is not the tree that fell. Another one literally fell and took all that down. The way I got a hold of it, or was they got interested in selling it, was code enforcement came through. They had a church come and help them remove as much stuff and debris as they could, but they just couldn't do anymore. So they kind of just abandoned it. And code enforcement kept coming and kept coming. And it wasn't until the fees got to $20,000 that they finally went.
So how did you get the fees off? Tell them that, because this happens a lot with code enforcement.
Okay, so, well, first when I talked to them, they had talked to a wholesaler literally the day before me. The wholesaler came in, said, I'll give you $10,000 for it. You have to decide right now, and because I'm leaving, I'm going out of town. And so when I got there, she was crying. So I came in and not only gave her more money after hearing what she was wanting, but I also came and picked her up because she didn't have a car to go to code enforcement, was it mitigation court or something like, looks like, I swear it looks like court. And I went with her to talk to him about it and held her hand, literally held her hand. We just kept squeezing each other's hands. Not that she knew, but I was just as scared as she was. This was the first time I'd been there. So, but we told them that we had a deal. I was going to buy it from her, and they literally dropped all the charges. I didn't pay any.
So you heard that. She got all the charges dropped off. So don't be afraid of those code enforcement things because they will negotiate. So you purchased the property for $30,000. The after repair value is $335,000. These are all what you had walked in on. And estimated repairs were $230,000.
Right.
So
You're
what?
gonna understand why in a minute, but the $30,000 that I was buying was the negotiations that we had was I'll give her $30,000, which is 3 times more than the wholesaler. Now, my son knew they had that wholesaler. He's like, offer them 11.
Smart son.
Now, I did offer them 15,000 cash. I offered them 5,000 now and 20,000 once I was finished. And then I also offered them 30,000, nothing down. I'll pay you $500 a month for the next 5 years. And then, oh, by the way, since it has so much that needs to be done, I want 6 months before I start paying you. And she agreed to all that. So first off, before we get to this, I had people come out, give me estimates. We turned the power on. It sparked everywhere.
Uh-oh, we got 2 of those, I think.
So they turned it right back off and said, we need an electrician out here before I'll turn it back on. So, and then I had a roofer come out. And when a roofer, that was the other thing. The electrician looked at me and went, do you really want to rehab this thing? And then the roofer came out and looked at it. And when a roofer tells you you shouldn't you don't need to do a re-roof. You need to do something. You need to get somebody else to come in here before you get me. You have to think about it. And then he turned to me and goes, do you really want to rehab this thing? So I had my uncle, who's a general contractor, come out, and I'm like, okay, so tell me what we need to do. Let's talk through this thing. And he goes, do you really want to rehab this thing? And I said, well, I got to do something. He said, let's demolish it and put a new house on it. So this was March of 2020. So I talked to my cousin, who is actually an architect, and I wanted to get working on this thing because things were going on, and this pandemic thing was starting up, and I was, starting to shake. He has some off-the-shelf plans, and he buys land and builds them all the time. So I just told him, I said, what do you got off the shelf? I don't want to wait for anybody to draw what I want or anything. I have no feelings in this house. I just want something that's going to make some money. So he came up with this one because he's got several of these mid-century modern houses that he's building. And this is one of them. He hasn't done as much of it. He has clients that want the smaller ones, or he wants somebody that's got the great big ones. So we found one that would be good with my budget and also the whole neighborhood, because everything else in the neighborhood was obviously a lot more bigger than the 860 square feet.
Yeah. So you did some demolition, you got your permits, you got architectural drawings, it appears here. Mm-hmm. You regraded the septic, new foundation, new everything. So this is a brand new house.
Yes.
So let's see.
When I first started out, I was thinking it was going to be somewhere about 80,000 in repairs to repair that house. And it would be a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, 860 square feet. But then we got into it and it looked like just to get that back to where it needed to be, it needed everything. So we were looking at probably about somewhere between 100 and 150 to get that same little footprint. But if I spent more, what did I have? Oh, it's not up there yet. That's okay. If I spent more where, the 200,000, I'd have a $400,000 house almost. So it was something that we figured it was better to do. And with the mid-century modern motif on the outside, we did put a little extra bells and whistles on the inside. You'll see that flooring, that is the flooring. It's polished concrete. So like the terrazzo floors back in the day, it keeps the house cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. So throughout the whole project, we really didn't turn the air conditioner on throughout the whole thing because it's keeping a pretty constant about, I guess, 72 degrees is about the ambient or the temperature of the earth or something. I don't know. I just go, okay, sounds good to me.
So you sold it for 366, you bought it for 30, you rehab for 254, commissions and closing costs, 14,000, and you had holding costs of 24. So you got a profit of 44,000. How long did it take you to do the entire project from purchase to finish?
It probably took it a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Seminole County, this was in
Labor of
Seminole
love.
County. Yes, Seminole County is rough. They also, starting out, it took me 3 months just to get a demo permit. Actually, I don't think I ever got the demo permit. I went back and asked, the demo permit is in your, all the plans when you do the building permit. We actually had to go back and just ask for a demo permit. And granted, I still had code enforcement on me. So every time I would clean up, they'd come back and say, yeah, we want a little bit more. And I just kept saying, waiting on a demo permit. Can you tell me, you work across the hallway from them. Go tell them to give me my demo permit. So
it looks amazing. So anyone in the audience have a question for Paula about her deal?
There's one right over there.
Oh, okay, good.
This one right there.
We got one question over there, one question over here.
At any time, did you have to leave any part of the original structure there for any permitting reasons, like a wall or anything like that?
We took out the foundation. We put in a new septic, everything, all the plumbing, everything's gone, was gone.
Okay, very good.
That's it. Oh, that was your question. Any other questions? Question in the back.
Well, if you had to do it over again, would you just have bought a lot and not bought a lot with a house on it?
I'm looking for lots now.
Good question.
I might have one for you.
Okay, great. You have to understand that $44,000 profit might not seem like a lot. I didn't do anything. I had a general contractor that handled everything. So it's not like I had to go and check on anything. You're paying them, so you're not going to get as much, but I could go out and look for more deals while he's taking care of all that.
Any other questions? Got one over here. Oh, go ahead.
Hey, Paula. When you were finished, how long did it take once you listed it? I'm assuming you listed it to get your offer.
I put it on the market without windows and without doors. I waited till I had a roof. 6 days later, it was under contract for more than I paid. So when I was looking at putting it on the market, it should have gone for about 238. With pandemic, I thought, let's try 258. Just throwing it out, because right now, or the moment, what?
358.
Okay. excuse me, I have
Left
been.
100 bags on the
Okay,
foot.
yeah. So 338,
Pocket change, right?
358, and then I got the offer at 368 with no contingencies on any kind of appraisal.
Last question over here. Peter.
How did you fund the renovation?
The whole thing, private money. I just started talking to people and just, I had several, when I started talking, I had several people trying to, because this is a lot, pull their money together with other people to try and work it out. And I was able to fund it that way. I think we put probably we paid eight $500 payments in all of that time. Because like I said, I had 6 months before I had to start paying that $500. And I didn't give her anything other than the closing costs to buy it.
Can we get a hand of applause for Paula? Thank you. And this is for you. Okay, Ron, got another deal. This is where is it? This was done a very long time ago. Now, you're gonna have to notice that when we bring the dud of the month, we're reaching into our past of when we did a bad deal. It's not like current most of the time. Oh, here you go, Ron. So like I said, I met with Ron, we sat down and we knocked this out over lunch. And so this is a triple X, 3-bedroom, 3-bath in Apopka. How'd you find the deal, Ron?
A referral from a carpenter.
A referral from
Just said he knew a family that owned this, and it was originally a house, but it was zoned multifamily. But that came up later as
Okay.
some issue.
Now, if any of you guys know Ron, his number is plastered all over his car. So you get some calls from that?
And my shirt.
In his shirt, he's always got a shirt on with his number on it. You know, this is how you get deals, because people know what you do. They just call you. A number of times I've driven by somebody who's got a number and I take a picture where I'm driving and I'll call them later for whatever they're offering. So get your name and number out there. So Ron, this is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath when you bought it.
Yes.
Okay. So these are some before pictures. And this should have been an after picture. I got this off of Google because it was so long ago, Ron didn't have pictures. So we had to find a way to get pictures.
Originally, it was a double carport. And after all the business with the electrical got done, we enclosed the carport.
Okay. So the original plan was to purchase it for 60, spend 15 on rehab, and the after repair value was 95, right?
Yes.
Okay, so since this is the dud of the month, I guess it didn't go exactly as planned. So let's talk about that.
Far from it.
So let's talk about what happened. Tell the audience what happened.
It didn't have separate electric. And I brought Rob in as a partner, and we both hate when it's not separate electric because people don't care how much they use. So an electrician that I had used for years and had pulled permits for me and done things well, and I brought him into the club and he got so busy he had to hire 3 people. But he told me that he could convert it to separate electric without a permit. And don't worry, he kept saying, don't worry, just we'll put 3 meters in it. He had an extra meter, I had 1. I'll do a nice box. They won't say anything. How's this possible? Don't worry, just call and tell them you have 3 meters.
It's time to worry when contractors tell you don't worry. No offense to your contractors out here.
I admit I fell for it because he's a master electrician. He had done upgrades for us with him without permits. So I trusted him. We had used him for years, Rob and I both, and a bunch of other people in the club. And I fell for his speech. So we called, I admit I called and told them we needed the meters read. They come out and they pulled 2 meters out. So we had to then apply to have 3 meters there. And they were rougher on us because we had not originally done it with a permit. So we spent 2 months just proving that we're allowed to have 3 meters there because it was zone multifamily, but there was some glitch where we thought they were just giving us a hard time because we didn't pull a permit and they were trying to teach us a lesson, which we did learn on that one. So we had to go in and not only do some extras because of the codes are so picky. Even then, I had to put 5/8 fire code sheetrock through all the party walls. We had to have it where all the smoke alarms are interconnected.
So how much extra did that cheap electrician cost you?
About $10,000.
You get what you pay for, right, guys?
We ended up keeping it, and I sold my partnership portion off to Rob Arnold about 2 years ago, but he ended up keeping it. It does produce a good rental now. It's about 1540, I think, square feet under air, window unit air. And it rents easily because it's close to 436, close to a bus line. And it's
So even a bad deal turned out to be a pretty good deal, okay? He had problems with the electrician. They did it without a permit. He had to redo it with a permit, spent a whole lot of extra money on the fire coding, everything. But in the end, he had to keep it as a rental because this is what, 2006 or so? Seven. And what happened in 2008, guys? You guys remember? Were you around? Okay, it was a tough time in this business. So they were forced to keep it as a rental. They purchased it for 60. They spent 10,000 more than they had planned on a rehab, which all in, they were in for 185,000. But the good news is they kept it as a rental, and that's a 21% ROI, even on a bad deal.
But it took 9 months extra because of what they put us through and all the inspections we had to do. But eventually it turned out okay. But it was a lot of aggravation that because I listened and fell for his speech, he was competent. He just gave me the wrong information. And I admit I fell for it.
Any questions for Ron?
Been doing this since 79, but I get fooled occasionally, I admit.
It happens to the best of us. Any questions for Ron? Say it again? Yeah, he got a permit and he redid it.
That's what took so long, yes. It was
Put your
9
hand up
months
if
till
you have a
tenants-
question so the mic could get to you.
9 months till we were legally able to have 3 meters in it so the other 2 tenants could move back in. Because originally it only had 1 meter. So that 1 meter was allowed to stay and the other 2 tenants, which were already separated, had to move out, and then we got 2 new tenants.
Ron, I've got a question for you. How many deals have you done in your career in real estate?
Probably 250, because I've been doing it since 79. So a while.
Been doing it for a while.
Originally in Pennsylvania, city of Philadelphia.
So why do you need
Why did,
I don't understand. You said that originally was 1 meter.
right.
And after you have to put 3. Why?
Well, we didn't have
So
to. We chose to because that way the tenants just pay for what they use.
It's a 3-family.
Instead of,
3-family.
that was our goal, which we got it to eventually. Yes, it just took a lot more aggravation than we expected.
Yeah, so that property was a triplex. So 3 separate buildings running off 1 meter.
3 separate units.
3 separate units, sorry,
Yeah,
yes,
sorry.
thank you. No, you're right, Great point, thank you, Ron.
Yeah, if you have multiple families, you definitely want to have separate utilities because as Ron said earlier, if you have 1 meter and you're paying for it, the tenants really don't care. If the lights are on all night, if the air condition runs, in the winter, they just don't care.
They'll let it run all weekend if they're coming back on Monday, if they're not paying for it and they're not home all weekend. So we try to avoid that. The unusual thing was it was zone multifamily, but it's because 2 months till we could apply for the permit to have 3 meters there.
All right, so Ron, I'm waiting for the other foot to drop. You said you sold off your part of the partnership, you're out of the deal. What happened to it after that?
Rob has it rented,
Still?
as a long-term rental.
Still?
Yes, still.
It's probably worth 300,000 now.
Probably. What was funny, for a while, things went up after we owned it. And we had people that were offering us about 250, which we were ready to take. But then they ran into some issues with financing, and then the real estate market crashed, and we had to keep it.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions for Ron?
Did you end up keeping the same electrician, or did you end up having to get a different
I
electrician?
used him for, well, we ended up keeping him because we convinced him that he had some responsibility to correct this because he had given us bad advice. Took us down the wrong road. So he did eventually. And I kept making sure he was doing things promptly.
Now, to add to that, Ron, did you continue to use that electrician again after that project?
Not much, just a couple of small repairs after that. And he was always a little bit difficult, but he became more difficult after that. I'm not sure exactly why. So I stopped using him.
Let's have a round of applause for Ron. Fantastic deals. And again, if you guys have a deal or a dud, you can reach me at CFRI Vice President. And if you need any questions, that's Ron. All right.
Can we have a round of applause for our Vice President, Phil Georges? You know, let's try that one more time because I want to hear like a rousing round of applause for Phil Georges. All right. Okay, you guys did not disappoint. Thank you very much. Good job. All right, and did I tell you that we have a class going on right now called REI 101, REI 101 Academy. If you did not know about this, you can still register to attend the classes. We've only had one of the 6 classes so far. If you have some interest, you want to know more about it, go to the website. You can find out more, or at the table outside, you can find out more by talking to Buffy as well. Now, in just a moment, we are going to be taking our break, and then we will get our panel together and we will start back up here. But there are a couple of things that we want to do in the meantime. First of all, if you did not know this, because maybe you came in and you didn't realize that there are other rooms back there, we actually have a room down this hallway on the side. If you came in this door, it's the first hallway to the right. And the first room to the right is where our vendors are tonight. And these are the vendors that are present today. And we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to see who all is here, and you get a chance to go say hello to some of those vendors and talk to them, especially if you have any questions about things like cabinets, IRAs, and so on. All right, so those vendors there, we do want you to recognize that they took time to come here and set up tables, answer questions, and during the break, we want to make sure you visit those. Now, before we go on break, how many people here, I want you to raise your hands for a moment. How many people here are not CFRI members? If you're not a member, raise your hand. Oh, stand up even. Oh, all right. We're going to get some exercise in. All right. If you are not a CFRI member, would you stand up for us, please? All right. Round of applause for these people. And what we want you to do is we want you to come over to this side of the room where Buffy is standing because, and Mari, where's Mari Lynch? Mari is our director of membership. If everybody that's not a member will follow these two lovely ladies, during the break, we are going to tell you about a special offer that we have for you. Now, everybody else, you need to be back in your seats at 7 o'clock. That's in, well, a little over 15 minutes. So you've got about 18 minutes. You can mill about, talk amongst yourselves, do some networking, learn some amazing things. And then at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock, we will have our panel of 4 experts up here. So see you back in a few minutes. All right, we are ready to kick things off yet again. Welcome back, everybody. Uh-oh. Have a seat, gentlemen. All right. Well, welcome, everybody. And welcome back to those of you that are joining us once again to our presentation. Our presentation today is on how to improve your cash flows in real estate. And we have a very esteemed panel here tonight that you're going to have the opportunity to ask some questions of. So be thinking, what are your questions? What kinds of questions do you have? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by letting everybody introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about who they are. You might even want to go ahead and share your contact information now, but I'll try to remind you to do that again as we close up in case anybody has additional questions. But tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what your area of specialty is. You guys are probably familiar with this gentleman because he has actually been up here before, of course, our newest lifetime member. And Greg Bond, tell everybody a little bit about what you do in real estate.
Yes, I am a broker. Had a brokerage for a while. I have a property management company. We have an investment company, and now I'm spending a lot of my time doing self-storage and assisted living. But I've been property manager for managing my own properties for about 30 years, since 1988. How many years is that? It's quite a few.
A lot.
So, yeah.
Dating yourself.
So learned a lot, made all the mistakes you can make, and learned a lot through that process.
Yeah, and very good point. Now, you mentioned you are managing your own properties. You manage for other people as well?
Yes, I do manage for other people. A lot of those properties came through investments. So we would buy the properties, rehab the properties, put a tenant in the properties, and sell a turnkey type situation. So a lot of our tenants or a lot of our owners are out-of-state owners. But we have recently started managing, especially through CFRI. A lot of members have requested me to manage their properties. So we manage a lot of IRA properties and other properties for members.
For members. All right. Outstanding.
Love to manage more.
Well, you would manage for people that aren't members too, though.
I would certainly manage for anybody who has a property that needs management. I would love to manage more.
Makes total sense. Yeah, I completely agree. All right. So, and everybody, of course, already knows Greg is a board member, and Greg is serving as our treasurer this year. And the next gentleman seated just to Greg's right is also a board member. Mark, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about you and what position you serve on the board and what your area of specialty is?
Yes, good evening. My name is Mark Johnston, and I own a company called Generous Investment Properties. And pretty much I manage and make money is my job in life, is to make money in real estate. I've done that through small multifamily. I've been usually doing more of a BRRRR method where I go in and I buy, I rehab, and I refinance. The last 18 months have been great for us. I am a licensed real estate broker. I've been licensed since 1994. I pretty much run the gamut of mobile home parks, buying and selling mobile homes on land, holding notes, notes, mortgages, everything to do with real estate, because when you're in the business long enough, what happens is the paradigm keeps shifting, and as it shifts, you need to find another way to make money. And just in today's market where prices are up and rates are down, we're all looking for a different way to move forward to make money. Love the business, love CFRI. Many of the friends I've met and the business I've done have come directly through relationships I've developed at the club. There's been very long-term relationships too, and I'm very grateful for CFRI and all it's done for me. So if any of you have any doubt, if you're in the right place, you certainly are, because if you can't find what you need here, then something's just not quite right. If you need to see me, I'm always open. My advice is free. It may not always be the best, but you're welcome to reach me at 407-704-SOLD. That's SOLD, 407-704-SOLD, or 7653.
Did you want to give your contact information?
Phone number 407-252-9658. And you can catch me, email gregbond7@me.com is my personal email.
Always envious of that me.com email address you have, but oh well. All right, so next on the list here, another board member. Joe, why don't you tell everybody, Joe, and this is your first year serving on the board, correct?
That's correct.
And
Hello.
tell everybody what you're doing and a little bit about your background in real estate.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I started in real estate in 2010 after I got out of the Navy. I started out by just buying a single family home, a 4-bedroom home, and renting out rooms in that house. Fast forward to now, I do real estate investing full time. I've done several flips to retail, for retail, and also kind of like you did, Greg, I've done a lot of turnkey flips, primarily purchase a house that needs renovation, renovate, put a tenant in it with good property management. I don't do the management myself, and then sell to out-of-state investors. So I've done quite a bit of that. I like doing a lot of different types of deals. So a lot of people, they like doing the same type of thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. They do single family. They just do lots of single family. They make lots of money that way. I like experimenting, doing lots of different things. My most recent project, or one I'm currently involved with, is in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, where I'm doing a Airbnb property, which I have not done before. So that'll be new. Another project I'm involved with is in Southwest Florida. I have some lots. I'm putting manufactured homes on the lots, and that is also something I've never done before. And this is my first year on the board. I joined CFRI when I moved back to Florida, which was right after COVID time. So I was actually a CFRI member, and I'd met all these great people, but they were on a computer screen. And so it was a year later, roughly, I was a member for roughly a year before I met anyone in person, just due to the situation. So thank you.
Yep, thank you very much. And last but not least, another gentleman who has been on the board many times. Rob, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. And actually, Joe, did you give your contact information?
I did not. Good call.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, you can reach me. Cell phone 561-827-5036. Joe Fiddelman. Thank you.
All right. And then Rob, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing on the board and doing in real estate.
Hi, I'm Rob Arnold, CFRI. I'm a lifetime member. I'm currently the marketing director on the board, and I'm also the legislative chairperson for the board. With the legislative, anybody comes across anything legislatively at local, state, or national level that you think might affect us as real estate investors or private lending, anything that would affect our membership, please reach out to me, because I can help try to rally the troops so that we can get in front of some of these issues before they become a major problem for us. I am a licensed real estate broker. I own Sand Dollar Realty Group and Sand Dollar Property Management. We manage properties and we do a lot of listings for sellers. It's primary what we do on the brokerage side, just to listing and sell properties for homeowners and investors. I also flip properties regularly. I've flipped probably 400 properties over the last 20 years. I focus right now especially on sinkhole damage properties, probably flipped 50 sinkhole properties all around Florida. Have a couple I'm working on right now. And additionally, I have rental properties and a portfolio of rentals and mortgages that I do. And I'm always looking for the next deal, and I'm happy to help anybody out if you have any interesting problems that you can't figure out. I always try to help out new people and just try to help everybody learn. That's what we're here for, just to learn and try to help each other do better.
And your contact info.
407-375-4567 is my cell phone, and you can find me online, $100 Realty Group. You can find me there at the office. So.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Now, our topic today is how we can take some of the things that people are learning, for example, in the REI 101 Academy, things that people have learned over the last year, especially new members, even some of us that are diehards, but how can we improve what we're currently doing? So how can we maybe increase or improve our cash flow in real estate investing? And I think one of the first things that comes to mind that we'll talk about is our current market environment. Now, you can call that the supply chain, you can call it COVID. I mean, there's a lot of names that any of us could use to describe things that are going on in the environment, whether it's the property prices, whether, again, lots that could go on there. But in general, with our current market right now, what would you say are some of the things that you are doing, or maybe not doing, so maybe we should just say doing differently, that you might not have been doing in the last few years that are helping to improve your margins in real estate? And I guess we'll come back here. Greg, we'll start with you.
Increasing your margins. I mean, from a property management standpoint, that's what I looked at it from and came prepared for. There's a lot of different things that we continue to do. I don't think it's strictly related to COVID, because it's just natural things that you can do to increase your margins, specifically on a rental property. If you're self-managing a property, something like offering the tenant to mow the lawn. They're going to mow the lawn. So you want to, when you're signing that lease, do you want to mow your own lawn? If not, I've got a service that is cheaper probably than you're going to find, because I do volume and I can mow the lawn cheaper. And now you're making a little bit of money on mowing a lawn. Same thing with house cleaning, same thing with pressure washing, same thing with because we own a boat and RV storage, we have a guy that details motorhomes. Well, he also likes to clean cars. Would you like your car cleaned? Instead of taking it out, they come to you. So, we just kind of look at all the different things that we can do, and we say it's the other services that we can provide and add-on services that give you a little bit of extra cash. We've looked at solar, right? And you go, okay, if I put solar on the house, if I can get 100% financing on that and it more than pays the bill, and you pass that along, can you add a little extra to the tenant because now they don't have an electric bill? We haven't done that yet. It's been something we've been playing with. So just those are a few things that we've looked at.
Yeah, very interesting. And I would say the general overall category there then would be add-on or ancillary services that are maybe not things everybody thinks of immediately when they say, well, we're going to manage the property for you. Right. Or we're going to handle taking in the rental income. That's it. It doesn't have to be. Now, one thing that caught my attention, you may have something that you want to add to this, but I'm just kind of curious. You mentioned the person that owns the storage for the RVs and boats and whatnot, and they will detail them and whatnot. Could you also offer like parking storage for people that wanted a boat and things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And what were you going to add? It looked like you had
and that's some of our clients do. They have, especially in a gated community, if we're managing a property and somebody new is moving in, they can't store a boat or an RV there. So, by the way, we also have a boat and RV storage facility.
All right. See me later. I have something I need to park over there. No, in all seriousness, that's really, really helpful. And again, another great example of something that maybe not everybody's thinking of that they could do if they're managing property. Now, Martin, passing that question on to you, again, just thinking in general about the market and some of the things that you do, are there things that you're doing now or want to be able to do now, doing differently? And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be market related, but that certainly brings it to mind because things are costing more. So what can you add to that? What are some ways that you might suggest?
You know, Jay, what I've been doing is I've been upgrading all of the properties significantly. So I've taken my rents from $750 to my rent renewals came out now at $1350. And what we've done is we've gone in and we put in vinyl plank flooring. We've done new soft close kitchen cabinets, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. The refrigerator still cools the same as a white one, but the shiny ones make it really nice. We make sure that there's a washer dryer hookup. We've been adding small patios onto the back of the properties, changing the blinds from the pull string to the automatic lift up. We do, the better lighting inside. All those things are a lot better. What I found is that because of COVID, which has kind of worked in our behalf, we're getting a better quality tenant or resident, I should say. And when they come in, they're really looking for some place that they can work in, someplace that's nicer. They don't necessarily want to be in, that same old tile floor or the espresso, or the terrazzo floor with the grainy cabinets and all that. So we've gone in and we've made a big commitment to update everything. And in doing so, we've been able to really attract a much better resident, and we've been able to command a lot higher monthly rent. So in the properties that we purchased over the last 18 months, the highest rent was $850. The lowest was $550. I can share with you that they're all a minimum of $1125 or better at this point. So once you get your fixed costs down where your mortgage is X amount and it includes all your expenses, now everything that comes in is all clear profit. So it's been really, these are great days. These are great days, especially when you look at interest rates being as low as they are. So when you freak out about putting another $10,000 into it or adding a roof or whatever, if you're going to pull it out in a long-term mortgage, it really does not equate to a tremendous amount of money. So that's what we've been doing as far as the property management is concerned. If I were flipping, honestly, all those people who are buying it, who are selling anything right now, you need to not pay for your dock stamps. It's not the law that you pay your dock stamps. Keep that money. Keep that 0.70%. In all the contracts that we've done, we have a separate addendum we put on a separate page, and we never pay for that. We also ask for the appraisal, the inspection, to get a copy of the inspection as part of the deal. They agree to that there. Minimum escrow amount, $2,500 or better. We need to have it inspected within so many days, as you know, per the FAR contract. And if we could shove the appraisal to a quicker time frame, we'd do that too, because that seems to be the thing that's taken the longest. And though I haven't flipped in a while, I know that, when we were flipping, those were things that were a concern to us. This is a great time to make money. This is a great time to make money.
Now, with those properties that you're talking about where you're upgrading and getting a higher rent, are you waiting until those tenants are moving out to do the upgrades? Or are there some where you're saying, hey, we'd love to upgrade your property and charge you a little bit more. Do you mind moving out for a little while? How are you doing that?
Do you want me to be honest with you?
Yes.
They move out.
Okay.
They don't want to be there because they're not going to be able to afford to pay the rent. Because again, you're going from a different quality of tenant or resident to a new one. And I learned this lesson in Leesburg when I had a quad in Leesburg, and they took me to school. And I decided that I no longer wanted to be in a C-level property because C properties are a lot more work. So I wanted to upgrade to B where my residents really actually cared. They didn't drive the brand new car. They had the 10-year-old car, but they paid their rent on time. So those were, attributes that I was looking for that the folks in Leesburg gave me an education on,
There's always an education to be had, for sure. You'll learn one way or the other, right? Very true. All right, excellent. Joe, let's continue on with that thought process and kind of get your input on what we've talked about so far.
Sure, Jay. I think the largest change, this probably comes by no surprise to anyone, is just the increase in materials cost and just the unknown fact on how much it's going to continue to increase. And so when I put together some rehab scopes on properties, I'd have the materials, I'd have the labor, I had all these fancy spreadsheets, and they were pretty spot on. The issue is, over the last year or more than that, a lot of times the materials have gone up 2 times, 3 times, if you can even get them. And then a lot of times where I would normally go to get the materials, wouldn't have the materials, so I had to go somewhere else, which made it even more expensive because maybe I didn't get the discounts at that provider or whatever the case is. So at the end of the rehab scope, I put a contingency. What I used to do, and it worked great in 2016, 17, 18, 19, was I used 10%. So in other words, I figured out my total cost for everything, and I always rounded up anyway. And then on top of that, I added 10% just as a fudge factor. And so I had to change that to 20%, which is pretty dramatic. And it made it so some of the deals that I thought would work no longer worked for me. And so I didn't force the deal because in my opinion, that's one of the worst things you can do. But that's probably the biggest change. You just have to reevaluate the deals. I had to change some of my margins as far as what I'd be willing to do. And it made it tougher with the, increase in fudge factor, if you want to call it that. I'd say that's the biggest change, Jay.
Okay. Interesting. Makes it easier when you create that line and say, nope, that's it. I'm following that line or not.
Right. And that is with me estimating what I thought the materials would be. So I did put the increase. I didn't just change the 10% to 20% to account for that. I changed all the line items to what I thought the new price would be and then added the extra 10% on top of that.
Nice. Okay, great. All right, Rob, continuing that thought process, what would you say are some things that you've been doing or would suggest people would be doing to increase what kind of revenue they can get from their properties?
Regarding rental properties, if you haven't not aware, the rents have gone crazy high. They just keep going up. And if you have tenants in there that have been in there for years and years and you're not raising your rents, please raise your rents because you're not doing yourself any favor by keeping them artificially low. Raise them up to close to market value. If it's because everything else is going up, taxes, insurance, repair costs, everything else, and the tenants are going to pay them because if not, then they're not going to be able to find anything else. So we have property management office, and we put properties up for rent, and the phone just rings off the hook for almost every property, multiple applications, and so your tenants are not going to move normally if you raise the rent. Every single time that it comes up for renew, just raise it up to whatever the market will bear. And because the tenant, they're not going to be able to find anywhere else to go at a lower price. Regarding like flip properties, one thing that I've seen a lot of, and you probably heard some on the news as well, but there's a lot of hedge funds that have moved into the Central Florida area around Metro Orlando, Brevard, Tampa, Lake County. They're buying up properties, and some are flips, some are rental properties. Zillow was a big player, and they dropped off last year and decided they're not in that business anymore. But there's still 5 or 6 major hedge funds that are buying just more properties than you can imagine. I was talking with somebody at Open Door just about a week or so ago, and they said that they're making on average around Central Florida like 3,000 offers a month on properties around between Orlando, Tampa, and Jacksonville area. They're aggressively. They're not buying 3,000 a month, but they're making offers on them, and so there's a lot of these players. So as you're rehabbing a house and putting on the market, I've had several of them in just the last few months where before we put it even up on the market to the general public, just contacting some of these hedge funds, seeing what they're willing to pay for it. And some of them are paying more than I was going to list it for at retail. They're paying 20, 30,000 more than list price, and you're not even paying a lot of these fees that they'll use their own title company. They'll pay referral fees to the realtors and things. So it's amazing, but there's a lot of money to be made just dealing directly with some of these hedge funds. If you don't know who they are, please contact me, because I have about 6 of them that I work with now, and I'm just amazed at how much activity they have. So.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right. Let's flip this around a little bit. And Rob, if you don't mind, I'm going to stay with you and give you a chance to answer first and work our way back down this time. But let's flip that around a little bit and say, all right, since we've talked a little bit about things that we can do to maybe increase our revenue stream from some of these properties, what about on the opposite side of the equation? Are there things that people should be thinking about, recommendations that any of you have on ways that we can limit our expenses to help improve that cash flow?
Well, with rental properties, I would suggest with the insurance markets and the major chaos right now. I don't even, it's, I almost want to bang my head against the wall with some of these insurance, but definitely shop around whenever you come up for renewal with insurance, because some of the insurance companies are intentionally trying to raise the rates to basically get out of certain types of properties, getting out of certain zip codes and counties. And so sometimes you can just shop around and find a much lower rate just doing that. With your like repairs and remodeling on your properties, it's always, especially if you have a turnover where the property goes vacant, one is do everything you can to harden the property, make it more kind of tenant proof, get rid of carpets, put in hard type of floors. The vinyl plank laminate is very nice. Tile floors, very nice. But put in solid surface counters. The granite's not a whole lot more expensive than Formica, and gets you a lot more rent for the tenants like it. Don't buy used appliances. Buy the new ones, and they will last longer. Oftentimes you get these, I see these scratch and dent, and you buy them, and then they end up breaking down a year or two later, and you got to go buy another appliance anyway. So to try to get the new ones when you can. And they were little. There was a while where they were much harder to get these new appliances, but I didn't go into some of these appliance stores, and they seem, as long as you're not picky of what you want, if it's something that you're putting in your personal house, you might have to, it might be in back order. But for your rental property, you can get as standard, type of refrigerators and stoves. They're in stock at the appliance stores. Regarding like flip properties, I think the main thing is just watching your costs. I like the idea he was talking about with a doc stamp set, doing that, because you can really the buyers. I just listed a condo for sale that I had, and the buyers, there's no inventory. There's hardly anything available, and the buyers will, whatever price you think it should be at when you're putting something up for sale as a flip or any type of property, put it up higher than whatever that is. Put it up another 10,000 or so higher than that. You can always come down a little bit, but these buyers will bid up ridiculous sometimes, and so just and make them negotiate against each other when you're doing when you're buying that.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Rob. So Joe, same question to you, kind of flipping this around. What are some things that come to mind from your perspective on ways that if we keep the expenses lower, that's going to at least increase our overall cash going into our pocket?
So I have two things that come to mind, Jay, right off the top of my head. One is I did, I'm still doing a few rehabs up north in Indiana, South Bend area. And one of the things I have to do on almost all the properties, these are 100-year-old plus properties, replace all the windows, redo a bunch of other things. And the windows specifically, although this is true of many of the items, became almost impossible to get, or you could get them, you just had to wait forever. So it used to be, you'd wait 4 weeks, because a lot of these windows are custom windows, because back then they didn't have a Home Depot that you just go to and pick a standard window and throw it in. So I'd order these custom windows. And so then it became 12 weeks, then 16 weeks. And if they told you 16 weeks, maybe it'd take 20 weeks, and it became a limiting item. You can't sell a house with no windows or broken windows or really old windows. And so I don't know why I couldn't figure this out earlier, but finally I spoke to the manager, said, how are people getting windows? Because there's other people doing rehabs, and they just bought the house, and obviously they wouldn't buy the windows for the house before they would buy, at least I would hope not. And so he said, well, why don't you just buy a more expensive window? And I said, I didn't think about that. So you're talking about maybe $20 or $30 more a window, maybe a couple $100 total more for the house, but that saved me literally thousands of dollars in the holding costs, because maybe I'm paying 10% on the money. Heating bills aren't cheap up there, utilities, insurance, and all of that. So that's something that came to mind, where spending more money saved me a lot more, and it was really easy to do, and it saved a lot of frustration administration. On the rental side, I'd say the biggest thing for me is I have some small apartments, triplex, fourplex, sixplex, et cetera. And splitting the utilities is huge. And I didn't know that because I came from single family, did a bunch of single family, and then stepped into multifamily. That wasn't so apparent to me on how big of a difference that was. And I think the main reason is, and we've talked about this earlier today, even in a single family rental, tenants paying the utilities, at least in most cases. And so they care about the utilities. And then let's say I have to put it in my name for a month until I find a new tenant. No one's using it anyway, so the utilities are pretty low. Now the question always comes up, right? If they're separate meters, it's easy. You have 4 meters, you have a fourplex, you have all the tenants pay for the utilities, that's easy. But what about if you buy a property, you get a good deal on a property and there's only one electric meter or one gas meter if there's gas. And there's a lot of different ways that I've dealt with that. One way is you could, let's say it's a fourplex and all the units are the same. You could split the utility bill. I mean, that's one way to do it. You could do it based on how many people are there. There's several suggestions on how you can do that, but the point is just do something so that the tenants care and they're not wasting all the utilities, leaving the air conditioner on or the heat on or whatever the case may be. And mainly so you're not having to pay for it. So that's the biggest 2 things.
Yeah, no, those are great observations. And I think one of the things that really jumped out at me and hopefully for everybody else is I don't think a lot of us commonly think, hey, let me spend more money so that I can save money. I don't think that's a natural behavior for a lot of us. So that's a great observation. I love that.
And also add that it's always surprising to me that, you're talking to someone who works at a company, let's say this supplier that supplied the windows, and they never suggested that. But really, the person in charge of, no one's going to care more about your money than you. So you need to be asking those questions. And had I approached it slightly differently, I could have probably saved literally thousands and thousands of dollars. So,
and honestly, that's a little surprising. You would think any salesperson selling windows would be like, hey, by the way, if you buy the next package up, I have them sitting on the shelf and we can get them out today. Seems like a no-brainer, but yeah, again, if you don't ask that question, how are you going to know?
And I'm assuming because the lower quality windows were so back ordered, I'm sure there's lots of people that are in the same boat that they just figured, look, I'm doing a rehab, I'm just going to buy the cheapest windows.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they get that a lot. If it's a rehab, they're going to stay on the low end. But great point, something we all should be looking out for. Mark?
Reframe the windows.
Reframe the windows?
Yeah.
I've done that.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's a great observation. Again,
We've done that, bought stuff. You've done that and bought stuff at the restore, right? And they got a window there and it's like, okay, it's not what I need, but we'll make it fit.
all right. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes that might be tough if you're doing lots of windows and you're doing 24 windows in a house and they're these
Historical.
Large windows. And sometimes they have to be specific ones. Yeah.
I'm almost envisioning the front of the house having a circle window and a diamond window. Well, that's what we found. So
That might be in Greg's stud of the month.
yeah. Greg, if you got one of those, we need to see it. All right, Mark, continuing the thought process, thoughts on what we can do to keep those expenses lower and increase the margins?
What we do is, concerning property management, we have a third-party independent inspector go and inspect all of our units. And they inspect them 90 days before their rental agreement expires. And when they go through it, they have a pretty updated list or a detailed list of things to look for so that when they move out, we know what damage is theirs and what was basic wear and tear. Because part of our rental agreement is what's called a performance fee. We don't collect deposits. We do what's called as a performance fee, and it's just exactly what it sounds like. It's a performance fee. So they earn that fee by how they leave the property. So it's been pretty effective for us. So when they leave the property, we go in, we inspect, and we check off all those things that have not been done as the way they found them. And that's been able to, it not only pays for the inspector, but it really helps us to keep the place up, and keep it in good condition. So it's been really effective, really, really effective for us. You'll always get some challenges to it, but, we take photos and we have those things to be able to share with them to ensure that we're all on the same page.
All right, excellent. And to you, Mr. Bond.
Yeah, we do the same thing, Mark, is take video with them as they're walking through the property. The first day they're there, they're signing the lease, you're meeting them, and you're walking through the property. So there's a history and a record of what the house actually looked like when they moved in. So that's great. I wanted to also kind of echo something that Rob said. The number one thing we see when we take over the management of a property, specifically from a owner that's managing their own property, is their rent is extremely low. So just echoing what Ron said, watch those rents. They tend, an owner managing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties tends to say, I just want to keep my good tenants there. I'm not going to raise the rents. You're going to keep those good tenants in this market. Tenants are staying put. You can't find houses. So you almost can't raise that rent high enough. I mean, there is a limit, but you can raise those rents. In 2004, 5, and 6, when I was managing, you couldn't get good tenants, right? So you go through different cycles, and right now we're in a cycle where you can raise those rents. One of the biggest things that I learned early on was, I learned this the hard way, was not standardizing. So if you're doing more than one property, even if you're more than one flip, you've always got extra material left over, right? You've always got a gallon of paint in the 5-gallon container. What do you do with that? You take it to the next job site. As long as you're using the same colors in that next property, that paint's good, right? Tile, right? Vinyl plank flooring, same colors, so it all matches. Tile was a little bit tougher because you got to get the same dial out, or maybe it doesn't match with the vinyl plank flooring now, right? You get a pretty good match. So, but if you standardize paint inside, outside, trim colors, if you standardize fixtures, light fixtures, plumbing fixtures, right? We use the same Moen faucet, and it's kind of the same idea that you were talking about is, you're upgrading, you're paying a little bit more. We used American Standard to start out with from plumbing fixtures, and we found out that those things leak pretty quick, right? And so you pay less, but if you buy a Moen faucet that's got a lifetime guarantee, all of a sudden those things don't tend to leak as quick. And so you may be paying $30 more, but if you're not having to deal with a leak once a tenant's in the place, it's worth that $30. Plus, if it does leak or there's a problem, you send it back to Moen, they send you another one. Plus, my repair guys, they can probably change a faucet out with their eyes closed because that's the only faucet they use, right? So it's just that continuous momentum. So the word is standardize. Standardize absolutely everything you're doing as much as you can. If you're doing a flip, then you might not be able to standardize as much, but if you're just putting together rental properties, absolutely that's the key, is standardizing absolutely everything. A couple of the things that we do is the Home Depot rebate, specifically from CFRI. And then if you're military and you have not applied for Lowe's and Home Depot discounts, the military discounts, I mean, that stuff adds up. A little bit over a long time turns into a lot of dollars. We use something also called Wet and Forget. Anybody use Wet and Forget? Tremendous material if you have not heard about it. It's basically an enzyme that eats mold and mildew. So instead of having somebody, and this only works if you've got a long time. So say you're in the rainy season and your property just has all sorts of mold and mildew. You can hire a guy to come and pressure wash it, but if you put a pump-up sprayer and spray Wet and Forget on it, that eats the mold and mildew. So what happens is that enzyme in there, it activates when it's wet. So you spray it on. It has to be on there for at least 4 hours and dry completely before it gets wet again. But now that enzyme is embedded into that item, whether it's wood, plastic, metal, concrete, doesn't matter what it is. So you spray it on and then you just forget about it, right? And over time, every time that gets wet, so it rains, that enzyme activates, it eats the mold and the mildew. It's like Pac-Man, right? It's just eating away. And it dries out, the enzyme goes dormant until it gets wet again. Then it activates and it eats and it eats and it eats. And so this stuff, when I first used it, I thought, yeah, somebody's pulling my leg. They're selling me a big can of nothing here. And so I sprayed it on one part of my house and I left the other part. And I went out and checked it this week and I went, yeah, I got took, nothing. But a month later, I went out and I went, holy cow, half of it's clean, half of it's not. This stuff works. So you can use it in any environment. Don't use it inside. They've got special stuff you can use inside for showers. But you can use it at home. And I would say, you know, it saves a lot of money, specifically like if you're doing a rehab and you're doing a major rehab and the roof's good, but it's dirty and you just need to spray, you know, you need to clean the roof rather than getting a roof cleaning service. You go up there with a can of wet and forget and just spray it yourself. And by the time you're done with that rehab, especially if it's the rainy season, right, because it's got to get wet to activate, that roof's probably going to be clean and you're going to save some money through the use of that. One of the other things is Mr. Eraser. I just can't believe Mr. Clean, that magic eraser. I was shocked, right? We'd go in and tenants, kids would color on the walls, right? So now there's that residue of the crayon, right? And you try and paint over it and it doesn't paint good. So now you got to kills it. And now you got the kills on part of the wall and you're trying to match it and it doesn't look good. But you just go in with that magic eraser, Mr. Clean magic eraser, and it just magically takes that crayon off and all the residue. It's like, wow, this works great. Where have these things been all my life? Smart key locks. You know, we would, in the early days, I would carry around deadbolts and doorknobs because you don't, when a tenant moves out, you don't want to put keep the same key because you got to protect the new tenant coming in. So you change them out. And then Kwikset came out with this thing called the smart key lock. Anybody use smart key locks? Right? Tremendous. You can change a lock in literally 10, 15 seconds, right? You put the key in, turn it, put the little device in, click it. It holds the tumblers in place, pull the old key out, put the new key in, turn it a full turn. Those tumblers fall back onto the new key and you're rekeyed. So it saves, again, it's spending a little bit of money on the front end, but it saves you a lot of money on the back end because you're not constantly changing out those locks. So those are a couple of things that come to mind.
Excellent. And by the way, Greg Bond is an owner in Kwikset and Magic Eraser
and Wet and Forget.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Eraser.
You own stock in those. I know that. You know you do. No, that was a great observation. And actually, that kind of brings me to the next question that I had on the list, which we'll go back to any of our panelists here. But are there some things like those, whether it's an app or a material or something that you have been using in your projects that has definitely helped with your margins and increasing the cash flow? And that, I mean, that could be an app, it could be a piece of material, it could be, like you said, standardizing. Other thoughts?
Jay, some things come to mind. I kind of broke mine out in services, extra services we could provide and make a little bit of extra money, and then equipment that we could provide. So in the equipment side, I look at washers and dryers, right? A new tenant's moving in, they don't want to deal with bringing in a washer and dryer, getting it hooked up. So we provide a service where we bring in a washer and dryer, right? We charge them a $60, $75 hookup fee, and then $25 a month per washer and dryer. So they don't have to deal with it. And a lot of people just don't want the hassle factor of dealing with it. So a lot of the tenants moving in will say, absolutely yes. We try to do the same thing. We thought, what else can we offer? Large screen TVs, that might have worked several years ago. They're pretty cheap now. So, and they're not that hard to hang up. So it's something that didn't work as well. We only tried it a couple times. We have had people request water softeners, right? So they rent the house and then they want a water softener. Well, great. It's going to be an extra $50 a month. Let's see. Somebody who's requested fully furnished. So it's kind of the Airbnb, but they want it on a long-term basis and they wanted the whole apartment or the whole house furnished. So I think it's just talking with the tenant and finding out what they need and offering different options to them.
I do believe that you have come up with a whole new business idea of, let's see, your Aaron's rent to own, except they never get to own it. They just get to rent it. Interesting plan. All right. to our other panelists, what about you guys? What are some things you might suggest? Again, whether it's an app, it's a product, something that's really helped you in increasing your margins and doing better as far as cash flow is concerned.
You know, I use a software firm called RentTech, and I do that so they can do their ACH payments or credit card payments, so that every now and then when somebody gets a little bit stuck, instead of being late and paying $110 worth of late fees, they're able to avoid that and slide the card and, you know, pay it by a Visa or a MasterCard, American Express, you know, for a fee. So that's been very effective.
Excellent.
And it's interesting because there's usually the same 2 or 3 people all the time who do it like that. You know, it's kind of interesting stuff.
All right. Joe?
I use a site called Rentler, Rentler. I believe that's how you spell it anyway. And that doesn't cost anything for the landlord or the tenant, which is kind of neat. If they're doing ACH and just paying with the bank. But if they want to pay with a credit card, which sometimes they have to, they pay for their, I think it's a 3% fee. So that's a site that I use that anyone can use. You can just have one property if you're self-managing, for example, and that works pretty well.
All right. Rob, anything you can add to that?
I mean, I use a similar to what you're talking there. I have them use that. It used to be called Cozy, but now it's apartments.com. It has allowing the tenants to pay online, so they can use a credit card or a debit card, and they get to pay the fees on it. So, but I like the idea of the one where it's not free. It's no cost at all. Also, with all my door locks, I haven't tried the smart locks, but I tried to get rid of the locks where it's where the exterior lock is on the doorknob, so that tenants can't get locked out of the property. Just put a straight deadbolt on it and use like a hall and closet doorknob on it that doesn't lock. So that way the tenants, if they're locking the door, they have to use a key, and it's a lot easier to change the locks out when the time comes for them to move. So.
Jay, the other thing with QuickSet, because we have QuickSet 816s on all of them, on the front doors and the back doors, not only can you change the lock quickly, but you can keep the same one master key for every lock. So it's kind of neat to I carry one key. I only have to carry one key, so it's great.
Yep. We use some software, and I would recommend anybody starting to scale and having, 3 or more, 4 properties, start looking for that software, because that's allowed us to scale, and the level of the increase in all of the features of the software just continues to improve and improve and improve. So
what's the software?
We use AppFolio. There's Propertyware, there's AppFolio, there's Buildium. Those tend to be the big 3 that most of the professional property managers use, and they offer all those features. They help with the process of trying to vet tenants. All that stuff. It's just tremendous, and Show Mojo and all the lock boxes allowing the tenants to go in, especially during COVID. That was one of the big things. They can show themselves the property. There's Rently. There's I'm trying to think of the other one. Rently is on a monthly service, but there's another one that you can actually buy the locks and you can monitor.
With CodeBox.
Yeah, CodeBox. Yeah. So we've changed a lot of ours to CodeBox, so that would be a great thing. The first time I used it, right? It's like put it on, and then the tenants can schedule their own appointment, come and get given the code. So it's really, really helpful.
You know what's interesting is I'm sitting here, I hope you don't mind me ad-libbing, but we're all talking about managing properties, because the way to make wealth in real estate, or to generate real wealth in real estate, part of your portfolio needs to be multifamily of sorts or rentals of sorts. That's part of your portfolio. The other part may be flipping, it may be finance. There are other things that could come together, but a major portion, or a good portion of your portfolio should be tied with rentals. So if anybody just takes that away with them tonight, you're on the road to making money and to some real success, because though it takes a while to get there, as you get there, you'll find out that passive, which as property managers, it's really not passive, but that income will help perpetuate you and take away your nut every month. So now you have the time to go and invest in flips and go and do land home packages or other investments that might be effective for you.
Jay, some of the expenses expenses. So again, I broke mine down into reducing costs, services, equipment, and then expenses that we incur, right? So we went over with the staff and said, what are all the expenses that we incur, right? And we took a look at them and say lockouts. You know, we occasionally get a tenant that says, hey, I locked my keys in. Can you help me? Yeah, we can help you. We always keep a set of extra keys, but we're 30 minutes away. Right. So it's 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back. It's an hour of somebody's time and the gas and the time and the effort to get it there. So we charge a $75 lockout fee. If they call us locksmith, they're going to get charged close to that, if not more. And so we put that into place. We do a 3-day notice. If they don't pay their rent and we have to post a 3-day notice, we charge them a $50 fee to post a 3-day notice that they haven't paid their rent. It's forcing us to go out, post something on their door and start that whole process. We got to fill out the 3-day notice, send somebody out to post it on the door, somebody to drive back. So code enforcement violations, if they're not mowing their lawn, if they're doing something else to create a code violation, we charge them a fee. Now we have to deal with that code violation because it's something that they created. If it's not something that they created, right? If it's a roof, if it's something that we're responsible for, obviously we don't do that. Pet screening, right? I didn't used to charge for pets. I charge pet rent now, right? It's $25 per pet per month, minimum 3 or maximum 3 pets. And, you know, we send them to a service called Pet Screening, petscreening.com. And they give a paw rating, right? So it's 5 paws is good, a 1 paw is very bad. So, but they go through and they check, they make sure the records are up to date. They've had all their shots. They do all sort of
These are the pets, right?
Pardon me?
The pets have had all their shots.
For the pets, not the children.
Just check
exactly. No shows. When we schedule maintenance, we were getting a lot of our vendors saying, oh my gosh, the tenant told me I scheduled an appointment at 10 o'clock. We went there and they weren't there. Yep. They go back again, they're not there. We start charging a fee for a no-show. Because guess what? Our vendors are going to charge us for driving out there for a no-show. So we're going to charge the tenant. Again, if you make them, it's all about being responsible. If you force them to be responsible, they're going to be responsible. If you let them not be responsible, it's going to, a lease cancellation fee. And we have people that want to get out of their lease. We charge a 2-month lease cancellation fee, plus they lose their security deposit. So, you know, sometimes we'll give and take depending on the situation, but that's our standard. Late fees. You know, if somebody talking about late fees, charging late fees. We charge $50 if they're a day late. It's a $50 charge. I used to be really lenient on it, and then it had no effect. Right? So it's just stuff you learn over time. And then I charge $5 a day. So it's not just, oh, I missed my rent. I'm already late. I'm going to pay the $50 fee. I might as well pay it on the 30th now because it doesn't matter. Right? Now you got to create that in them. Okay, it's $5 a day for every day you're late after the first day. A convenience fee. We started charging, we said, we want tenants to pay through our system, right? If they send us a check in the mail, that's great, but that check requires us to pick it up at the P.O. box, fill out a deposit ticket, drive it to the bank, put it through the bank, go into our system, log in, log their payment history in that they've now paid their rent, where if they'll just go in and pay that online, it automatically does everything. The money hits our account automatically. It automatically updates the system. It's automatically in their history. So we start charging a small fee if they want to send us a check. We don't accept cash. We will accept a check, but there's going to be a fee for us to take that check now because we've made it so easy. Our system will let them go to a 7-Eleven or a CVS or a Walmart and pay with a code. All they got to do is take their cash in and say, here it is, boom, and it's done. It's in our account and they paid. So
those are great. Joe?
I was going to say, so I do a hybrid approach. I manage a few of my own properties, and then others I have management for that I pay for. On the ones I manage myself, as of last year, I don't accept checks for anything other than the electronic payment. So that's, you just put it right there on the lease. You just check that you only accept electronic payments, and you can do that. that solved many issues. One is, magically lots of people, their checks don't arrive and, oh, I mailed it, it must have gotten lost in the mail. But if that happens, 4 times in the year with one tenant and all the other checks are coming in, it's probably the tenant. So that gets rid of that issue. And the other thing is kind of like you were saying, Greg, I used to be lenient with late fees and all of that. I tried to do the same thing, but some people try and take advantage of that. And so what I like about the automatic rent systems is you can put in, so for instance, for mine, let's say property in Georgia, you can't charge a rent fee till 5 days late. That's just how it works there. So the software automatically on the 5th day charges the late fee at 12:01 in the morning. And so it's just automatic, and that's just how the system is. So there's no, oh, I missed the post office. Here's a picture of the door closed 5 minutes after it's closed. I've heard it all. You probably heard it all as well.
I get the feeling you've actually gotten that picture sent to you.
No, yeah, I didn't make that up. That's actually happened more than once.
Yeah. Okay.
So unfortunately it was, anyway. So, there was something else I was going to mention. Oh, one other thing I was going to go back to the home inspections. Someone had mentioned home inspections. So I didn't used to, but I get home inspections on every single property. This is on the purchase side. And so for instance, last year I spent, I think a total a little over $4,000 in home inspections. And I saved over $30,000. And so people like, how does that work? Well, that's, and actually I probably saved even more than that because some of those deals I didn't do. So I spent the money on the home inspection. It was much worse than what I thought. And so I didn't do the deal. So that probably saved me even more than that. But of those that I did do, most of them, so we'll say greater than 50%, I was actually able to save money much more than what the home inspection cost. So if the home inspection is $300 or $400, maybe I was able to save $2,000 or $3,000. And once you've gotten that far, and buyer or the seller, I should say, thinks you're going to buy the property and you plan on it, and you're all the way at the end, and then you say, hey, there's these issues that we didn't know about, they're very unlikely to not sell it to you. I mean, unless there's a huge discrepancy. So that's been something that's been very
great negotiating tool for sure. Yeah.
We do something similar with property management. So we go in and do a video every 6 months. Right. So the tenant knows, right in the lease, they know from the very beginning, every 6 months, we're going to come in and do a video. And then we post that video on our software so the owner can see what's going on in their property. And what we generally find a lot of times is leaks under the sink that they haven't told us about, right? They're pushing stuff under the sink and they bump it. And now you've got a leak. And what does that leak do over time? Right? It creates mold. It rots out the bottom of the sink under the floor there. And then you get problems there. So the earlier we can catch that sort of stuff. So we find those type of inspections really have helped save time, help the owners see what's going on in their properties. And the biggest problem that we've had with tenants is not changing their AC filters. Right. So it clogs it up. Now your system's running harder. It doesn't last as long. So getting there at least in there once every 6 months and being to check on that and see, is this filter been changed? And so we provide filters for them. They're in the closet. All that they have to do is pull them out, put the new one in. And we date them, right? Okay, this one's dated, da-da-da-da-da. This one's dated, da-da-da-da-da. So we know. So they try and, pull one out. Well, that's not our writing or that's not our system, how we, and they don't know that, what color marker we're using or what's going on. They can't match that. So we go, what happened to the filter? And so.
Good. Martin, did you have something you want to add?
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting to hear how different people manage the rent collection process. Because what I do is I issue everybody a deposit-only card. So they'll go to Wells Fargo, which is the bank right now we're using, and Bank of America. We issue them a Wells Fargo card or a Bank of America card. They simply slide into any ATM, put in their payment. Like we don't accept any checks. We don't take any cash. It's got to be to the bank directly. We don't get involved with it at all. On our rental agreements, if the resident doesn't pay on the first day of the month, on or before the first of the month, day 2 it jumps $50, day 3 it jumps $60, and I have my process server, this lady I love dearly, and she goes and serves them. Well, they freak out instantly. So usually if they're around during the day by 5 o'clock that day, or whenever the banks close, I get payment. And if not, they'll call me and we'll figure out that, did we, rent them something that they can't afford to pay for? Do they need to make other arrangements? Can I set up up a search for them to find another place to live. We want everything to be amicable. We want to be able to help them, obviously. In today's situation, everything's crazy for a lot of people, but it's just easier for us to collect rent like that. We prefer to do that like that. It just makes it easier.
They can use the deposit cards though.
And they do, and then we charge them $25 for the new card, and now they have to go into the bank and stand in line. Or pay the late fee. Yeah, it's a win-win. Did I say that?
All right, before we continue any further, I do want you guys to give your contact information one more time because I was hoping we would have some time for questions, but it is already 7:57 and we have to be done by 8 because we lose our ability to broadcast and everything. So please give your contact information in case people have any questions and they want to follow up with you.
Again, Greg Bond, 407-252-9658. And email gregbond7 That's my personal email.
Mark?
Okay, I'm going to ask you guys if you can remember this number, 407-704-SOLD, S-O-L-D. So that's 407-704-SOLD. And you can reach me at that same number.
Awesome. Joe?
My number's not as exciting. It's 561-827-5036. The one thing I'd just like to add really quick, because I don't think it was mentioned, is I have automatic rent increases built into my contract, and I'm a big believer in that.
Excellent point. Yes. And Rob, how about you?
I'm Rob Arnold with Sand Dollar Realty Group. You can always find me at Sand Dollar Realty Group, and also 407-375-4567 is my cell phone. And just I want to add just a quick add is that of all the property management things you hear them talking about, you can very easily for 8 to 10% just pay somebody to handle all that for you. And I even owning a property management company and owning rentals for years and years. I more and more every time one goes vacant that I'm self-managing, I give it to the other guys just because it gets so much off your table you don't have to deal with. Because the ultimate goal is, the ultimate wealth is owning the properties. That you flip them, you make the money, and you put that money into assets that go up in value.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Did you have something you wanted to add, Greg? No. Okay. All right. Before we round everything out, we've got a couple of giveaways we want to do. Is Tashira Hunter here? Tashira. Hey, there you are right there. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. All right. Yeah. All right. How about Lisa Booth? Hey. All right. There's Lisa. I should have been able to see you. Sorry. This was hard with those lights up there. Yes. All right. And we've got 2 more. Let's see who we got here. Who's next? Linnell Martin. Yes, yes, no? Oh, there we go. Awesome. Congratulations. And thank you for coming to meet me. Beautiful. All right. And let's see. Can we go 4 for 4 on this? What about Steve Spivey? Hey, there's Steve. All right. Fantastic. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. All right. Well, we hope you guys got a lot out of this, and I would love to stay and do it for hours and hours and hours, but we got to get out of here. Can we have a huge round of applause for our panel? And where is the meeting after the meeting? I'm sorry, that wasn't loud enough. Where's the meeting after the meeting? Okay, let me try this again. That was not loud enough. Where's the meeting after the meeting? Y'all are pathetic. Good night.